chilly out here right now. So over the next couple of months, I'm gonna be spending quite a bit of time here in the garage. It's kind of messy right now. I gotta clean it up a bit. However, the garage is typically the last place that anybody wants to spend time cleaning. So I did a little bit of research, and apparently there's a YouTube trick where you snap your fingers and whatever you happen to be thinking just comes to fruition. So I'm gonna give this a go. Yes, okay, all right. Make me a sandwich. Oh, that's good, that's good. Okay, maybe a giant glass of water to wash it down. This is good, this is real good. Babe, you know those enhancements you were talking about? I got something I want to show you. So I did something the other day. And to be honest, I'm a little embarrassed to even share it with you. If I don't share it with you though, I don't know that I'm actually gonna learn from my mistake. And if I'm actually gonna learn from the mistake, I have to face it head on. I have to admit what I did. And although I really don't enjoy doing it, humility goes quite a long way. Breast cancer awareness, huge supporter. It's a top-down camera. It's the top and it's down. You get it. So I have to give you a little bit of a backstory here. And if you guys are anything like me, you are the best drivers on the road. Hands down. Nope. Everybody else, idiots. Absolute idiots. Being humble makes me thirsty. Well, on this particular day, I had a bit of a problem. I was trying to get somewhere and I was in a bit of a hurry. I wasn't actually in a hurry. I just wanted people to drive faster than what they were driving. Do you ever run into those times where it seems like everybody is going the exact same speed and that speed is below the speed limit? That's what happened on this day. It seemed like no matter what I did, I couldn't get around anybody. When I finally did get the opportunity to go around somebody, I might have took it a little too far. Let me set this up for you. Dynaco Blue. This is gonna be me. Chick Hicks. Random bystander. Feel bad for this guy. Daryl Cartrip. This guy doesn't like me anymore. At all. So, here are all the idiots. Also known as responsible drivers. I was stuck behind all of these responsible drivers, overly irritated because I'm very impatient. Here's the on-ramp onto an express lane. The arrows are the line you're supposed to follow. There was a wall here and then a couple 100-yard opening where it was all cement. And although you're supposed to stay on the lane, I chose to go in the area where you're not supposed to drive because this guy wasn't going fast enough for me. This guy, on the other hand, I didn't see him. So what I did was came around here and completely cut this guy off. Instead of admitting that I had done something wrong and gone over to the side here, let him pass and give him a nice friendly wave, I took the ultimate high road and decided to floor it. He was quite pissed and decided to stay right behind me for several miles. Up the road here, it goes from an expressway down to just a regular 2-lane road. As I'm slowing down, he gets very, very close to me, and like the responsible adult I am, I slammed on my brakes, causing him to lock his brakes up, swerve, and almost crash into the back of me. I did that more than once. When we got onto the 2-lane road, and he went to pass me, I gave him a very mature 1-finger salute. So what happened here? Why did any of this go down like it did? To be honest, as it was happening, I knew I was in the wrong. Like, I knew that everything I was doing was in no means acceptable behavior. Do I have a massive ego on the road?
As I see it, yes.
Let me introduce you to ego. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. I just love coming to this place. Ego. Okay, great. So is it good? Is it bad? If we look at the example that I gave, it almost made me get into a wreck because I was being reckless. So surely ego has to be a bad thing, right? Well, not necessarily. Ego has a lot to do with identity and pride. If people see us differently than we see ourselves, that's when our ego is really gonna come into play. Here's a simple example of how to look at this. Maybe you were the really smart kid in school and another student or a teacher anybody says something which might strip you of that title, you're gonna get really defensive. And who knows, if somebody said something bad enough to you, you might even retaliate. What's interesting though, is if somebody who you don't put much authority into their thoughts or opinions tries to infringe upon your identity, it's not even gonna faze you. Oh, but that person's opinion that you actually value, they said something about your intelligence, ooh, we're gonna have problems. All right, we get it. What's the big deal? Ego gets us in trouble, makes us act uncharacteristic. It's just not a good thing, right? Well, not necessarily, hold on. You see, ego can actually be a really good thing as long as we can keep it under control. For that smart kid, the smart kid's gonna stay home because they have that drive and determination. That's what ego gives us. Ego only actually becomes a problem when it negatively influences our life. Let's say at your place of employment, you're the go-to person. Everybody comes to you for answers and you like it. And because of that, you spend a lot of extra time at work to be that person with the reputation that everybody's gonna go to. The only time that guy's really gonna become an actual problem is when he starts to become that know-it-all guy, when his ego starts to come into play, as if nobody could possibly know anything about the job that they don't already know. But remember, our ego is what self-propels us past our own perceived limitations, provided we can keep it in check. All right, keep our egos in check. Got it, message received. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. You see, I'm a perfectionist. That means that ego has an opportunity to rear its ugly face at virtually any moment in any given day, regardless of the situation, because, well, I'm trying to strive for perfection. And on occasion, when the ego finally does make it to the surface, unfortunately to a lot of people, the reason for the ego is oftentimes misinterpreted. Here's a really simple example. I'm a terrible cook, and I know this, everybody else knows this, so there's not a great deal of expectation for me and my cooking skills. A couple of weeks ago, I decided to go ahead and learn some new recipes. You see, my sons were coming into town. They're sick of eating the same thing over and over again, so I figured, I'll spruce it up a little bit. Believe me, even my sons have very low expectations for my cooking skills. So the goal here wasn't to provide some 5-course meal. The goal is just to be able to choke down the meal without throwing it back up. Unfortunately, they didn't necessarily like the new meals that I had created. I got a little upset about this. I didn't overreact. I didn't yell at my kids or anything for not enjoying the food that I created for them, but my ego was hurt. And the thing is, it had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they didn't like the meals that I created. I identify as a really good father. I try hard to be a formidable figure in my kids' lives, to try and be able to provide some type of value to them as often as I possibly can. I tried to do something that they were going to enjoy, and it didn't work out. It had nothing to do with the fact that I couldn't cook. It had to do with my identity as a parent, as a father. And maybe you're watching this thinking, dude, chill out, who cares, right? Make him a sandwich or something like that afterwards. But remember, this was my identity here. At this point, I think we can all agree that we have an ego and it can get in the way from time to time. I think we can also agree that the way we utilize our ego is going to be the differentiator. We could use it to fuel our ambitions, or we could use it to get in the way and look like an egotistical jerk. But just imagine for a second, if you could completely get rid of the negative ego and just be present in the moment, how much more enjoyable would life be? Golf is one of the best examples I can think to use. Let's say you're out with a group of people and you're just not hitting the ball the way that you normally do. How many people have you seen that let a few bad shots completely ruin the entire event? All of a sudden, the fact that you're supposed to be out having a great time with your friends is completely ruined just because your ego of not being able to hit the shots that you would normally hit is completely getting in the way of the present moment. I hate it when that happens. Trying to become the best version of yourself doesn't come without challenges. For me, it's like I've got my ego in one side of my brain and I have self-awareness on the other, and it's like they're having a slugfest all the time trying to figure out who's gonna win. Keeping negative ego in check isn't easy, and it's definitely something that I need to keep working on. In an upcoming video, I'm going to hyper-focus on self-awareness practices. So if that's something that you wanna see, like, subscribe, do the whole bell notification thing, and I'll see you next time. See ya.